Online gambling is when you bet money on games or sports over the internet. It can be anything from spinning a slot machine on your phone to placing a bet on a football match. But inside the European Union, the rules for this can be incredibly confusing. There isn't one single law that covers every country. Instead, each of the 27 member states gets to decide for itself what's allowed and what isn't. This creates a real patchwork of different regulations, where something that is perfectly legal in one country might be completely banned just across the border in another. For anyone looking to gamble online, or for businesses wanting to offer these services, understanding this complex map of rules is the first and most crucial step to staying safe and on the right side of the law. This patchwork system means that the European online gambling market, which was worth nearly 48 billion euros in 2024, is highly fragmented. Imagine trying to drive across Europe, but in every country, the traffic rules are completely different. That's what it's like for gambling companies. They can't just get one EU license and operate everywhere. They have to apply for a separate license in each country they want to offer their games in. This makes things complicated and expensive for businesses. For players, it means the websites you can access and the games you can play depend entirely on where you live. This is why you might find that a popular betting site available to your friend in another EU country is blocked for you. Because there is no unified EU-wide law, the types of gambling allowed also vary a great deal. Some countries might allow online sports betting but say no to online casinos. Others might have a national lottery that is allowed to operate online, but private companies are shut out from the market. For example, in Cyprus, you can legally bet on sports online, but playing online casino games like roulette or blackjack is against the law. This is a very different situation from a country like Malta, which has become a major hub for online gambling companies because its rules are much more open. The key takeaway is that you can never assume the rules are the same everywhere. The reason for this diversity in laws often comes down to national priorities. Some governments want to protect their own state-run gambling companies from competition. Others are more focused on raising tax revenue from private operators. And all of them have a duty to protect their citizens from the potential harms of gambling, like addiction and crime. This leads to different approaches in how they balance economic opportunity with social responsibility. As a result, the legal landscape is constantly shifting, with countries regularly updating their laws, making it a challenging environment for everyone involved to navigate safely and legally. Across the European Union, you can generally sort the gambling laws into two main camps: open markets and restricted markets. Open markets are countries that have set up a licensing system where private companies, both local and international, can apply for a license to offer online gambling to citizens. Think of it like a competitive marketplace. Countries like Malta, Sweden, Denmark, and the Netherlands have embraced this model. They have special government bodies, like the Malta Gaming Authority or the Swedish Spelinspektionen, that are in charge of vetting applicants and issuing these all-important licenses. For players, this often means more choice, better technology, and competitive offers as companies vie for their business. On the other side of the coin are the countries with much stricter rules, which often take the form of a state-run monopoly. In these places, the government either owns the only company allowed to offer online gambling or gives exclusive rights to a single private entity. A clear example of this has been Finland, where for years the state-owned company Veikkaus was the only legal option for online betting and casino games. Similarly, in Poland, a state company controls online casino games, even though private companies can get licenses for sports betting. This approach is designed to keep all the profits within the country and to give the government total control over how gambling is managed and promoted to its citizens. Then you have countries that sit somewhere in the middle, with a hybrid system of restrictions. France is a classic example. It allows private companies to get licenses for online sports betting and poker, creating a competitive market for those activities. However, online casino games like slots and roulette are strictly forbidden. The French government made a clear choice to allow some forms of betting, while prohibiting others it deemed to be more addictive or risky. Germany has a similarly complex system, where virtual slots and poker are licensed at a federal level, but table games are often left to state-level monopolies. These mixed models show just how carefully governments try to balance economic interests with public safety concerns. The differences between these systems have a huge impact on both players and the industry. In open markets like Italy or Spain, you will find dozens of licensed operators competing for customers. In a monopoly system like Austria's, your choices are extremely limited. For businesses, the challenge is immense. They must tailor their entire strategy for each country, navigating different rules for advertising, the types of games they can offer, and the taxes they must pay. It's a constant balancing act, and what works in one nation will almost certainly not work in another. The landscape is a mosaic of different philosophies on how best to manage the world of online betting. So what makes an online gambling site legal in the EU? The single most important thing is a license. A license is an official permission slip granted by a national regulatory authority. It proves that a company has been thoroughly checked and has agreed to follow all the rules of that specific country. Think of it like a restaurant needing a health and safety certificate. Without it, they can't legally serve food. In the same way, an online gambling company cannot legally offer its services to players in a country like Spain or Denmark without first getting a license from the Spanish or Danish gambling authority. A license from a place outside the EU, like Curaçao, is not valid for operating in these regulated European markets. Getting a license is a serious process. Companies have to prove they are financially stable, that their games are fair, and that they have strong systems in place to protect players. A huge part of this is following rules to prevent crime, especially money laundering. This is why legal sites must carry out Know Your Customer checks. It means they have to verify your identity by asking for documents like a passport or a utility bill before you can deposit or withdraw money. This helps ensure that players are who they say they are, that they are old enough to gamble, and that the money being used is not linked to criminal activity. It might feel like a hassle, but it's a vital step in keeping the industry clean. Another core responsibility for licensed operators is promoting responsible gambling. The rules require them to provide tools that help you stay in control of your betting. These tools include options to set limits on how much money you can deposit in a day, week, or month. They must also offer timeout features, allowing you to take a temporary break, and self-exclusion registers. A self-exclusion register, like Sweden's Spelpaus, is a national database where you can block yourself from all licensed gambling sites in the country with a single click. These measures are not optional. They are mandatory requirements of the license and are there to provide a safety net for players who might be at risk. Finally, licensed companies have a duty to protect your personal information and block access from countries where they are not allowed to operate. When you sign up and share your personal details, the company must use strong security to keep that data safe, in line with the EU's strict data protection laws. They also use technology called geo-blocking to prevent people from playing in jurisdictions where their license isn't valid. All of these rules, licensing, identity checks, responsible gambling tools, and data security, work together. They are designed to create a safer environment where players can have fun without being exposed to unfair practices or criminal activity. The world of EU gambling regulation never stands still, and big changes are on the horizon. A major development is the new EU Anti-Money Laundering Authority, which was established in 2024. This new body is going to bring in much stricter and more uniform rules across the entire EU to fight financial crime. Starting around 2026, all gambling operators will have to follow enhanced Know Your Business checks. This means they won't just have to verify their players, they'll also need to do deep checks on their business partners and suppliers to make sure no one in the chain is connected to illicit funds. For operators, this means updating their systems now in 2025 to prepare for these tougher standards. We are also seeing a clear trend of countries moving away from monopolies and towards licensed markets. Finland, long a bastion of a state-run system, has announced plans to end its monopoly and introduce a licensing system by 2026. This is a massive shift. Even France is reportedly considering allowing online casinos, which would open up a huge new market. At the same time, countries with existing licensed markets are tightening their rules, especially around advertising. Places like Belgium and the Netherlands have brought in stricter limits on gambling ads to protect young people and other vulnerable groups. The focus is shifting heavily towards stronger consumer protection. To stay safe as a player, the best advice is simple. Always choose a site that is licensed in your country. You can usually find the license information at the bottom of the website's homepage, showing the name of the regulator and the license number. Playing on unlicensed sites might seem tempting, but it comes with huge risks. Your money isn't protected, the games might not be fair, and your personal data could be at risk. It is also important to use the responsible gambling tools available on licensed sites. Set deposit limits before you start playing, and don't be afraid to use the self-exclusion options if you feel your gambling is becoming a problem. For businesses, the key to survival is staying informed. The laws are changing so frequently that compliance is a full-time job. Operators need to constantly monitor regulatory updates in every country they operate in and be ready to adapt quickly. As we move towards 2026, complying with the new EU-wide anti-money laundering rules will be non-negotiable. The future of online gambling in the EU will be more regulated, with a greater emphasis on player safety and transparency. For both players and operators, navigating this landscape successfully means putting safety and legality first, always.